and welcome to my YouTube channel, Unholy Tudor. This is my first proper YouTube video, so I thought a good video would be to discuss 5 books that I would recommend on getting to know Anne Boleyn much more. So these are the 5 in question, but let's go into them bit by bit. First off, we've got The Fall of Anne Boleyn, A Countdown by Claire Ridgway, best known as the Anne Boleyn Files on YouTube and Instagram. I'm recommending this book because Claire goes into incredible detail on the last 4 months of Anne's life. So for example, you've got here the 2nd of May 1536. So by May she starts going into more detail. She goes into the people that are associated with Anne's downfall and also goes into the court documents on the 15th of May as well. And she also does a lot of source material, which is good. And then you've got the trial of Anne Boleyn. I just think if you want to learn more about Anne's downfall, it is a very good book because Claire breaks up really well, and I think it's a good way to digest what happened in the last months of Anne's life. My next book is a similar book to the first, and that is The Final Year of Anne Boleyn by Natalie Grueninger, who you may know best as her podcast Talking Tudors. This book is a masterpiece. It is so detailed, and Natalie does such a wonderful job to describe what would have been happening for Anne in her last year. So the book starts in spring 1535 and ends with Anne's life in May 1536. Natalie goes into the details of the pressure from the European courts, from the Pope, the threat of invasion from the Spanish, and just how much heightened stress and trauma this would have been for Anne. We have the execution of Thomas More, and I just think this is a really different lens on how to focus on Anne, because obviously when we look at Anne Boleyn we go straight from her marriage where it's happy for the first 7 months, and then we go straight to how it all goes wrong. And I think in this book Natalie shows how it didn't immediately go wrong, as we know they did reconcile a little bit in the summer of 1535, but we know that it's the last of what was good for Henry and Anne. So I think this book is a really good analytical view for Anne's last year, and I also think it's really emotive as well. My next book is Anne Boleyn and Elizabeth I, The Mother and Daughter Who Changed History by Tracy Borman. Dr. Tracy Borman, I should say. This book focuses on Anne Boleyn and Elizabeth I, and it focuses on their relationship. Obviously we know that Elizabeth was only 2.5 when her mother was executed. We also see how through Elizabeth's life she tries to honour her mother in multiple different ways. Who she has at her court are mostly Boleyn and Howard relatives. We also see that in Anne's last few weeks that she was ordering clothes for Elizabeth. So we know that Elizabeth was on the forefront of Anne's mind before she was executed, which I think is harrowing to think. Anne was probably thinking, what's going to happen to my daughter when I am gone? But we see that Elizabeth is very much influenced by the French fashions and has very much interest in the French, which is what Anne Boleyn also did. We also know Elizabeth was highly intelligent. But the biggest thing in this book is Elizabeth's coronation. And in this we see a life-size version of Anne on Elizabeth's coronation procession. And we also see on Elizabeth's family tree, Queen Anne Boleyn. So Anne is brought back to the forefront, which is incredible, and it shows that Elizabeth did in fact mention her mother. My 4th book is Funds, Lust and Glory by Dr. Estelle Peronk. And I'm recommending this book because it is relatively new. It came out last year, but it's another different lens on how we can view Anne. So this focuses on Anne's upbringing in the French court, what she learned at the French court, and her relationship with the French court. and how she used her connections and her relationship once she became a love interest of Henry VIII in the late 1520s. And Estelle does a really good job of showing how the French really let her down when things started to go wrong. Because obviously, as we know, Anne wasn't a princess, she was a noble woman, so she didn't have the European connections like Catherine of Aragon, but she was kind of an adoptive French princess because Francis I, the French king, did see it as beneficial to have Anne on side because she had been brought up at his court, so he knew who she was and it was beneficial. But as soon as things started to go sour, he and his court did drop her, and this book is just excellent. I couldn't put it down and I couldn't recommend it highly enough. My last book is what I call the Holy Grail, or the Anne Boleyn Bible, and that is The Life and Death of Anne Boleyn by Eric Ives. This book is one of the first proper biographies we have on Anne Boleyn. It probably is a bit more outdated now compared to some of the newer books that I've showed you, but it is our first in-length biography on Anne. It covers everything. He really doesn't miss out anything, or with what was available, he doesn't miss anything out. So that is my 5 recommendations for books to read on Anne Boleyn. There are plenty that I could recommend, but I will just leave you with those 5. In the comments, you can say which book you would recommend to someone on Anne Boleyn, or which one is your favourite. Bye, until next time.